So our talk title today is Overcoming Silence, and we've got a subtitle. Are you ready? Overcoming Silence, Individual and Collective Liberation. Right? Oh, it's a big one. It's a big one. And overcoming silence. The reason that song brings me to such tears is I lived the first 32 years of my life trying to be smaller. Smaller in my body, smaller in my volume, smaller in my very frenetic energy with a lot of body involvement that you guys all know and hopefully love. Can't you fit in? Can't you be more elegant? Can't you be appropriate? Nobody needs to hear that. Did you really need to say that? And we take a breath. And then I walked in here. And it wasn't here, it was a different building, but it was here. We walked into this community, and I started getting the message over and over that I really was welcome with my loud voice and my big laugh and my frenetic energy and my things that I say. And what I came to find is that I have to be authentic. Being inauthentic to please other people was killing me. It was truly suffocating me. And I was acting out in all the ways people act out when they're being suffocated. Occasionally knocking somebody over with a flailing limb, literally or energetically, because I was being squashed into a box that I didn't fit. And I found this teaching, this amazing teaching, where Ernest Holmes wrote in our Declaration of Principles, we believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete freedom from discord of every nature, and that this is sure to be attained by all, by everyone. Everyone got to be free. And I watched ministers like Reverend Michelle Medrano be who she really was, loud and big and funny as all heck, and a little bit irreverent, and be welcome and admired and loved. And I thought, oh, I might have found the place where I am safe, where I am safe to be myself. And the more people I got to know, the more practitioners and members of the community, they were all saying the same thing, be who you are. And yet I still felt like I was completely stuck. My bondage kind of felt like this. What if I speak up and it's not really true for everybody? It's not true for me. What if it's only if you're tall and thin and blonde? What if it's only if you are kind of loud, but not loud like me? What if I pop my head up out of this hole and it turns out this place isn't safe either? What if? Oh, I'm willing to bet you've had a moment like that, where you glimpse the light peeking above the horizon and you're so tempted to pop out of your little gopher hole and see what's out there. But oh no, what if it's whack-a-mole? What if the hammer's coming and bonk? And I spent my first few years here afraid that the hammer was gonna bonk me back down. And so what did I do? I stayed down there. All these wonderful messages of you're wanted how you are. And all I could hear was, but if they really knew me, they wouldn't respect me. They wouldn't like me. They wouldn't want me. So I hid in the back row for more than a year. Cried every service. Talked to no one. For over a year. Can you imagine doing that in this community? They didn't make it easy. They tried talking to me. And then a woman named Karina, who has moved on to another expression of her spirituality, but for a long time was a long time member here. she said, so sweetly, she said, "Hi, we see you. If you ever want to talk, we're good at it." And bit by bit, she and Iris and a couple of other friends started pulling me in to this community and letting me know that it is okay to be me, to speak what is mine to say, to act what is mine to act. And as some of you know, that was 17 years ago, just about, and I'm clearly still here. Clearly still here. Staying silent is dangerous for us. Whatever it is that we think we can't say, that we're biting back, it is dangerous to us, and it has consequences. There's the consequence of the erosion of the sense of self. That's the consequence I felt, where I had a little peek of who I really was, but the deep belief that nobody was down for that kind of crazy. Nobody wanted to be dealing with that amount of chaos. Because you might know, if I'm wound up, I move fast, I talk loud, make decisions, go. It's a thing. It's a thing. I get it. But what that meant, put up the bondage slide again. That's what I titled this, which caused some giggles in the back room. What I found is, as my internal sense of self was squashed, I was losing track of it. There's one thing to know who you are, and I think you know now that I really know who I am, and I am in it, and I am claiming it, and I am loud and proud about it, and it's okay if it's not your thing. Thank God we have 2 ministers, and one of them is elegant, and is a little bit more circumspect, because if you need that, call Karen. She's awesome. And if you need to hear it like that, if you need to really get to the heart of matters, maybe you come into my office bravely. But when I get into the head of that young woman who was newly divorced and very unsure of her life, who I was getting lost in the process. My idea of I'm going to do it right this time meant I'm going to not be who I am. And does that ever work? It never does. It never does. Along with eroded sense of self, consequences of staying silent involve eroded trust with other people. How are they going to love you for who you really are if they can't see it? How are they going to believe what you say when you show up as a different person every time they see you because you're so busy trying to be what they want that they don't know who you are? Take a breath. That probably hit a couple of you hard. Obedience is not a relationship builder. To the great dismay of my father and first husband, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. When we aren't speaking our words, when we aren't being who we really are, we're setting ourselves up for misunderstandings. We're setting ourselves up for unmet expectations. Perhaps it's just me, but maybe you can relate. The things that you hoped a person would do, and then you were so hurt when they didn't, but you never mentioned what it was. I had a dream as a teenager because I read too many Judy Blume novels. So good. And my dream was that my boyfriend would give me his ID bracelet to show his love. There was a problem with this, however, because those books were written in the 80s and I was in high school in the 90s and nobody had ID bracelets anymore. The trend had passed. How many boyfriends do you think I bought ID bracelets for? How many ID bracelets do you think I got? 0. Nobody knew this scenario I had invented in my head to manipulate the world into this wonderful romantic moment. I have his ID bracelet. It means he loves me forever. No. Nobody met that need. And I'm willing to bet all of them would have if they had any idea what the heck I was doing. But they didn't, because I didn't, and I sure didn't let them in. When we don't speak our words, when we aren't brave enough to say what we want, we miss opportunities, and the status quo remains unchanged. Apparently, the status quo for these boyfriends is if you give them a gift, they wear it. The end. Seems very appropriate now. Heart-crushing in high school. Heart-crushing. It gets in our way. It gets in our way of being able to express fully who we really are and live life the way we wish to. But there are barriers. There are scary monsters in our way when we think of asking for what we really want or saying what's really important to us. There's the fear of rejection. Oh God, what if I say the thing and they're like, no, not this, not you, not now, not never. If this is your barrier, I gently, softly invite you to consider where that fear is coming from. Because I'm willing to bet it's not coming from the situation right in front of you. It's coming from something that happened long ago that broke your heart and caused your little brain to say, I'm never going to put myself in that situation again. Never, ever, never, nope, not a chance. Then I will be safe. But being locked in a prison of your own mind and heart isn't safe. It isn't safe. We can do more to break our precious hearts than any outsider ever could by holding ourselves bondage. And the true truth is, take a breath. If they don't like you when you tell your truth, they never liked you. They liked a pretend person you were pretending to be. So if you be yourself and somebody says, I'm out, they've actually helped you by moving something out of your view that was never yours and making space for what is yours to come in to your view. It doesn't feel like a celebration in the moment. And we're lucky to have this teaching to buoy us up, to strengthen who we are so we can withstand the energy of change. We can run into the monster of power imbalances. Is it safe to say this thing? Some of us grew up in a world that the very essence of who we are was considered criminal, undesirable, not safe around children. Can you imagine somebody thinking I was not safe around children? Oh my gosh, the only thing children are in danger of me from is me stealing them to have for myself. However you identified growing up, if you had in your heart an awareness that you were queer in some way, or a draw towards things like polyamory, things that our society doesn't understand, or certainly didn't understand back in the day. A few of us are older than 30, so go with us on this. And in today's environment, politically, energetically, there has been a bit of a turn to fearing and distrusting what you don't know. So for those of us who identify in those ways, I hear you, I feel you, I am you. And so we breathe and recognize that when we don't speak, the status quo remains unchanged. Why have things changed as much in the last 50-some years as they have? Because brave people stood up and spoke their truth. Pride started as a riot. of people standing up and saying, you will not shut us out, because they kept shutting down gay bars and arresting people and beating people up, burning buildings down. Now, we're lucky. We don't have to riot. Other people did that work for us, but we do need to keep speaking up. Speaking truth to power is scary, but it's essential. It makes the world better. This radical inclusive thing we're so attached to, it doesn't work if we won't speak up, if people try to take it down. We have to tell our truth, whoever we are. There's the monster of potential fallout. Oh my God, what's going to happen? Is there going to be blowback? Maybe, maybe. But Audre Lorde said it like this, and this is a woman who knew a lot about speaking up. I've come to believe over and over again that what is most important to me must be spoken, made verbal and shared, even at the risk of having it bruised or misunderstood. What if telling your truth is more important to the health of your soul than how people receive it? Again, if they don't like you when you tell your truth, they never liked you. You cannot lose a friend by telling the truth. A friend that would walk away from your truth was not your friend. Hard truth, but true truth. But when we get brave and we dig in, we get to discover what's possible. What's possible if we really speak our truth? When we embrace our voice, well, first, we have to know what that voice is saying. What do you want? What do you need? What is your heart calling for? Will you follow that call? When we do, when we begin to self-advocate, the world opens up. You know what the odds are of getting what you want if you don't ask for it? Virtually nothing. I have a collection of 0 ID bracelets. Not a one. So sad, so sad. If you ask for what you want, you might get it, and that's 100% improvement from not asking. Claim it, advocate for yourself. When we claim our voice, we get to create safe spaces like this, where everybody gets to be who they really are and be held in that place of support. We don't have to convince the whole wide world. We don't have to convince the whole wide country. We create spaces for ourselves and for each other. And people who need them find those safe spaces. Spaces just like this. It fosters a culture of compassion and acceptance. And when people show up in a place that fosters a culture of compassion and acceptance, do you know what happens? We bloom. We bloom. I sat silent. I sat silent, right? For a year before I trusted it, but eventually I opened my mouth, and I haven't stopped since. And then, when you're really brave, when you've got it all working, you start advocating for everybody else. You start telling your truth. You find that thing you're for, not against, and you scream it from the mountaintop. Ernest Holmes, in the book, A New Design for Living, told this story about community in the most interesting way. He said, a man was invited to tour heaven and hell, see what it was like. And he went to hell first, and what he found was very dismaying. He found a long table, as far as I could see, piled with delicious food. And sitting at that table were thousands and thousands of emaciated, starving people. And they had on their hands these long spoons tied to their arms. And they could get the food, but they couldn't get it in their mouths. And so they were starving and suffering. And then he went up to heaven, and he was so surprised that the room looked the same. Big, long table, overflowing with delicious food of every type. And people sat behind it with big, long spoons taped to their arms. They could reach the food, and do you know what they were doing? They were feeding each other. They were feeding each other. When we find our voice strongly enough to be able to see the needs of others around us and be able to use that advocacy for one another, that changes the world. That changes the world. Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman, who I quote probably too often, but I adore him. He said this, in conclusion, do not be silent. There is no limit to the power that may be released through you. What if your voice is the voice that's needed? It is the voice that's needed on the inside of yourself and on the outside of yourself in your life. Be brave enough to speak. You have no idea who you are influencing and the change you are bringing with your words. So this week, and really forever, the invitation is when you catch yourself biting your tongue, consider kindly, gently opening your mouth and saying what you need to say. So it is. Let's anchor that in with some prayer. Oh, how good it is to be in this now moment with this particular arrangement of beloveds in our Tatum campus and our online campus. How good it is to be in the place of the questioning, the place of expansion, the place of knowingness, that right where we are, Spirit is. And the only thing that Spirit has ever asked of us or will ever ask of us is to express fully who we are as expressions of the divine that are unique and glorious and sometimes hilarious and sometimes quiet and sometimes sweet and sometimes meek and sometimes bold, and all of it is delightful and all of it is delicious and all of it is by divine appointment of the Creator source that brought us here. And so what I know is that whatever is on the hearts and minds of each individual beloved within the sound of my voice, that Spirit is already on it, meeting those needs, opening those hearts, opening those minds, opening those possibilities. And I call it all gorgeous and beautiful and good. And so grateful I am to know this truth for and with each one of us as we claim it, as we say, and so it is.